Welcome to another episode of Hiring and Empowering Solutions. My name is Molly McGrath, and I am the founder and creator of this office altering podcast. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. If you're a first time listener, welcome. You can check us out at www.hiringandempowering.com. Okie doke. So today we are talking about take command, and I am so excited. And I know you hear me say that all the time, but you all are going to know within 5 seconds of hearing today's host. His energy is absolutely infectious. And I have Paul Gowin with us today. And you can check Paul out at paulgowin.com. I'll put it in the show notes and show you all the goodies of how to stay connected with Paul and take command. Hi, Paul. Thank you for being here.
Hello. And if you're first time listening, oh my gosh, don't buckle your seatbelt. Grab the 5-point harness. We are in for a ride. I am so excited. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Oh, thank you for being here. And I'm so excited for, so you want me to tell the listeners how we met?
I think that'd be a great place. Where did it all start? I looked across the restaurant with the dim light and I saw her eyes twinkling. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So Paul and I have a mutual client, and this is a really, really cool story. So I have an attorney client that I would go to their office every quarter and conduct a law firm strategic planning retreat. And my client started following Brendan Burchard, and she's just such an entrepreneur at heart, started going to some of his events and became a certified coach. And then after she went through the very first event, she comes back, she's like, oh my God, I met the most amazing coach. You have to meet him. You have to, you're just so, you're aligned, you're synergistic. He's the male version of you, but you got to meet him. You got to meet Paul. And I'd hear about Paul. And then I go for a retreat, and then I come, and the team truly was not even the same. And I said, what the hell happened to you guys? They said, oh, we've been Pauled.
We've been Gowinized.
Yeah.
Who cares about galvanized anymore? We've been Gowinized. Yeah.
So our mutual client tells me about Paul, and we've heard about each other for years now. And then she finally, I don't know what sprung this on, but she made an introduction email a month or so ago and said, you two, I just can't take it anymore. You two just need to meet. And so we hop on a Zoom, and holy moly, it's been lights out since then, huh?
It's been absolutely amazing. When you have two world-class coaches, and thank you for saying that I'm a male version of you. That is like an amazing compliment. Oh my gosh, best compliment ever. When you have two world-class coaches, they have distinct approaches. And they might clash, because when you're a Titan, I mean, it's in the movie title, it's Clash of the Titans. But being able to get on the phone with you, or actually, I think we did a Zoom call first.
Yep.
It supported what I saw around the law office as I was preparing for my one-day seminar with them. And I got to see your impact, and they were like so proudly demonstrating all of the work that you had come in and done to the law firm. I could see and feel the pride that they were taking in their process-driven, heart-centered actions. And when I saw that, I was like, I am so excited to meet Molly one of these days. Like, I could just see the overlap, and oh my gosh, the stuff that we have accomplished, and what we've had a phone call. Yeah. I interviewed you for my podcast.
Yeah.
And just the things that you've shared with me. I don't know if you know this, but it was a challenge. You put some stuff out there, and I received it as a challenge for, where are you at, Gowin? Like, here's Molly. She's just giving you a couple steps. How quickly are you going to implement what she has shared with you? And I'm really proud to say I have. My team's already oriented on a lot of those different pieces. So I'm super excited for whatever we're going to do today. I mean, this is going to be so much fun.
I know. And, I just love your backstory, and I think we would do an enormous disservice. So thank you. Thank you so much for those amazing compliments. I feel the exact same way. When you interviewed me on your podcast. And then I think it was Monday afternoon, you and I had a chat. We're like, we got to keep talking. We show up, we get on a Zoom. I have 2 pages of notes from our little coffee clutch we did on Monday. So like right back at you. I'm like, when you're talking about the impact theory, and then, I mean, I'm going to sprinkle a bunch of these notes in here and just have you chime in. But tell us about your backstory, because it's so amazing.
Yeah. Where do I start? Which part of the backstory? So let's go back to the beginning. Some of my earliest memories is centered around a traumatic event. I was raped when I was 4, and I grew up with physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse in the home, and then at school, the kids on the playground, and the teachers. It was the Catholic schools in Billings, Montana, where I grew up. I'm really grateful for the education. How it was delivered leaves a lot to be desired. And because of this traumatic impact to my personal foundation, it skewed the way I was looking at the world. And I recognized then that I must be bigger, faster, stronger, more abrasive. These are all like the names of the bricks that I built up in my wall. And I kept building. I kept running from the past. Instead of having the wherewithal to talk through that there was some traumatic things, I thought it was a common experience. I thought it was something to be ashamed of. So I continued to run from my past. When you're running from your past, it's kind of like running from your shadow. It's not going to work. And eventually you just like stop because you're exhausted. And for me, the stopping point was a little under 5 years ago. A little under 5 years ago, when I was about to take my own life. I'd been out of the Marine Corps after a 15-year career, went to Afghanistan, was able to create some really effective change there in how we were fighting the war. And when I got back, I got drunk, I got fat, I gained about 70 pounds, living on a diet of coffee in the morning to sober me up, bourbon whiskey at night, and pizza, a lot of pizza. And everything came to a halt November 12th, 2015, when I was about to take my own life, because I had convinced myself that I was a threat to society. I had no place. I was not going to be able to atone for the sins of my decisions of my past. And the best thing I could do is just remove myself from my place at the table for this wonderful feast of life. And I'm so glad. You know, you mentioned Brendan Burchard. He and I went to college 20 years ago, and I got to know him then. And thank goodness for Facebook advertising and how they kind of creep on you, because I'd started listening to some podcasts. I'd started moving my life forward. And on November 12th, 2015, there's a thumbnail image of my buddy, Brendan Burchard, with a little caption underneath that says, partnered with the Oprah Winfrey Network. And I'm like, what? you did what?
This clown? I went to school with him.
Right. And the thing that was amazing was that he had a level of service 20 years ago that was inspiring. And he has had 20 years to work with some of the top people in the world to hone his craft. So it's not that he's that much different. Mm-hmm. He's that much more focused. And one of the things that he told me before I joined the Marine Corps, after 2 years of college, was, Paul, don't lose your humanity. And this is a son of a 3-tour Vietnam vet. His dad served 3 tours, was injured a couple times, and retired out of the Marine Corps. And he told me, don't lose your humanity. Molly, I think I did everything possible that I could. I drank it to try and extinguish that flame of humanity. I fought it. I was belligerent. I was unfaithful to my first wife. I did everything possible to abandon my humanity. And I'm so glad that there was still that ember, that spark, that when the time was right, and it came from within, that it's time for me to do something different. I want to get a different result, which means it's time to completely rebuild from that foundational level. I went and got some help for talking through what happened when I was so young. I went and forgave my parents and talked through, like, what was this like for you? your son was sexually assaulted. What was this like for you in Eastern Montana in the 80s? And we got to talk through that their advice at the time, with them doing the best that they could, was he's so young, he hopefully won't remember. Hope's not a plan of action. It's one of the things I just told my client before this podcast. Hope's not a plan of action. And so because I did remember, it just skewed my perspective on the world. But in that forgiveness and being able to sit down and understand where my parents were at, and just being able to hear some of the guilt that they let that guard down, they let that vigilance down in their oldest son. My sexuality was compromised. Since then, what I've been able to do is understand anxiety, understand neuroscience, understand the leadership lessons that the United States Marine Corps inculcated into my soul, and then boil all of that down without the judgment, without the focus on waging war around the world. I am a peacemonger, Molly.
Yes, you are.
And to be able to synthesize all of these different fields that I study, I present that in a way that goes beyond empowerment. It goes beyond self-confidence. It goes into taking command of your life, your relationships, and your business. And that's not to say that you're in control of everything. You're in control of the only thing you've ever been in control of. And that's you, your attitude, and your perspective.
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. So, it's interesting. A client and I, we were speaking about kind of this hangover, if you will, of COVID and kind of trying to find our footing. And this whole thing about take control, it's interesting that you had that your whole model is on take command, that you are not in control. Right.
Absolutely.
And, in hearing your backstory, I didn't know all of that. So thank you for sharing all that. I think so many of our listeners can resonate with when you are in such deep, deep pain. And I always say to my clients, are you running from or are you running to?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And the great thing is you can repurpose your skill of running. If you have been running from your past, that means you have an acute level of focus that defies most mortals. So once you recognize that your past is nothing to be ashamed of, you can honor and learn from it. Then you can still use that skill of running with that ridiculous level of focus and orient it towards your future, your goals, your dreams, your projects, your passions, your mission for why you are on this earth. So I haven't stopped running. I just am not running backwards because I'm fixated on things that happened to me 40 years ago. Because I just turned 40. So,
and that's not your frame of reference. It's not your starting point of always. So often I'll hear people making decisions and validating their decisions from the past.
Mm-hmm. And
they're coming from that common pain point. So they're starting from that pain point. I'm going to read something. I have my notes here that you were, when we were talking on Monday about trauma, and you said running from trauma is this addiction to feeding, I'm not enough. And when you are constantly fixated on the external validation that you get, that causes a nosedive. It will cause a nosedive. And shifting that addiction from I'm not enough to I am enough. Did I say that right? Did I hear that right?
I as you're saying that, I was like, I want to meet the guy who said all of that. I think so. The fastest way to do a nosedive, and this actually happened to the Air Force in the 80s. They had their instruments in their cockpit were malfunctioning. And in no visibility conditions, the pilot would end up being inverted because his controls said that he wasn't inverted. And then he would think that he was climbing, but think about this, you're inverted, and if you climb, that means you're rapidly approaching the ground. So then the other sensor, like the left hand that's not talking to the right hand goes off and says, danger, you're about to hit the ground. So then they accelerate and increase the rate of their ascent, but because they're flipped upside down, that means they go into the ground faster. Are you still with me?
Yep.
If we had video,
Yep.
I could like be doing my hand gesture thingy. But just picture this. If you're listening to this at home, you're inverted and you have an alarm saying you've got a low altitude warning. So you trust your training, but because your perspective is skewed, increase your throttle and you pull up on the stick and you drive yourself into the ground faster than if you just would have been normal and then you just do a nosedive. That is where I was at. And so many people who seek external validation to have the top scores in the classes, to graduate number one in their schools, to go have the biggest client, to put up the most revenue. When you continue to seek that external validation, you are inverted. And it is when you recognize that you are internally valid that you are able to get out of that inversion. And then you can fly. Then you can soar. Then you are limitless. But until that happens, you're stuck.
Wow. So you're in the middle of the nosedive, right? And you wake up in that November and tell me, come on, is it that simple that you saw that ad from Brendan and Oprah joining forces? And what was it that just triggered for you to stop the bleeding, so to speak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was one sentence that Brendan has in there that I've created this whole structure for my clients. And it is that high performers celebrate their wins from now so that they can create momentum for what comes next. And I started cussing Brendan out. Now, keep in mind, he's on my laptop, but I was like, what's the rating of this show? Are we?
Yeah, there's a big E.
Yeah. I was like, Brendan, you don't know what the F you're talking about. You don't know shit, man. You don't know what I've seen. You don't know what I've done. And anybody that's studied any of the material, that is what he classifies as that caged life. And when I heard all of that, I was like, celebrate my wins. I don't have any wins. I haven't seen my kids in 3 years. I am drunk. I'm overweight. I'm living in my parents' mobile home. I am back in the state where I started that I just wanted to get out and go see the world. And this is before Admiral McRaven came out with that really great speech, but I looked over at my bed and I had made my bed outside of like basic training, officer candidate school. I hadn't made my bed. And I looked at it and I was like, pulled the sheets out, laid them flat, got the blanket, just put my hands over the wrinkles to calm those down, got the pillow, laid it flat down. And I said, I'm going to call that a win. And then I hit play on the video and he goes, high performers celebrate their wins. And I'm like, oh shit. Molly, have you ever been inside a mobile home? You know how if you fart on one side, it's like a level 5,000 earthquake on the other side? Like they're sensitive. So I bend my knees to absorb the shock and I put my hands up in the air and I wave them like I just don't care. And the craziest thing happened, Molly. I started smiling from the inside out. Instead of wearing a mask and showing everyone, I'm okay, there's nothing to see here, that had led me to the darkness of this abyss to take my own life, wanting to take my own life. I started smiling from the inside out. And then I said, okay, what's next? Well, there's a stack of bills. Let's at least open them up and look at the numbers. So then I started getting my financial security. I started coming up with a plan. I started orienting myself towards my future and did a lot of deep work. And if anybody's listening to this, yes, I saw a therapist. Yes, I saw a psychologist. There were so many ists that I saw. I don't even remember the whole team that helped me out. So if you are in that position where you might be judging yourself for wanting to go see an ist, go do it. They are specifically trained with the skills to help you make sense of those thoughts in your head, of just some of the conclusions that you've come to, and to give context, to give perspective. And that all of that is what really ended up helping me out and saving my life.
And just what I'm hearing is I don't want to make it seem so simple, but you found the win, you found the celebration, and then you started walking head on to the truth. Truly, that takes a tremendous amount of courage to have a stack of bills and to start opening them up and seeing, okay, what are we looking at here? But once you have the truth, whether it's worse than you thought or not as bad as you thought, what have you, the truth will set you free. So now what? Now you hop on a plane, you go to Brendan. What do you do once you have this daunting number? And what's next? How, I assume, I know you've walked me through your take command process, and I'd love for you to share that with our listeners. One thing I remember that you said to me on Monday, Paul, you said deep work takes time and it takes investment. And it was after our podcast, you're like, you kept using the word investment. And then we had this really fascinating conversation around language and around the terminology of investment, and realizing that, like you said, we're so conditioned that if you go see an ist, that there's something wrong with you, right?
You're tainted. There's something fragile about you. You're damaged goods.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a bunch of crap.
Yeah. And you and I talked about that coming from our upbringing, Catholic upbringing too, and our listeners are attorneys. And we talked about this on Monday as well, that attorneys are trained skeptics, number one, and they would say that. And that I always say it breaks my heart because there's nobody harder on them as a profession, as a human, than they are on themselves.
Oh, I wore that as a badge of honor. When I had people that took the time to believe in me and just say, Paul, you are being an asshole. The way you communicate your really good ideas is shooting you in the foot. And you're going to bleed out before you can make the impact that you want to. And I would just say, well, if you think I'm really tough on the Marines or tough in this meeting, you should hear what I do to myself. And I was wearing that crap like a badge of honor, Molly. And boy, the shit you tell yourself, it dumbfounds me sometimes. If I would have anyone talk to me the way I was talking to myself, well, I would have responded with violence. I would have responded with coercive intimidation. I would have raised my voice. I'm 6'3", and I would use all of those tools to intimidate so I could stay safe, because I was ultimately a scared little boy. When I made the decision to start investing, it was so much more beyond the money. The money allows you access to the people who have invested in themselves at these higher levels. I look at it as it's the same thing as when I was playing saxophone as a kid growing up. My first lessons were from the band director after hours, and the payment was to arrange the chairs for the next day's ensemble. And then I graduated up to creating some income on a side hustle, and I was paying $15 for 30 minutes of a lesson from a college student, until eventually I was paying like over $100 an hour because I had access to these additional amazing teachers. And the same thing happens in personal development. Is there money? Yes, because people who pay attention. When I get offered these free groups to join or free input or free, no, thanks. That served me at one point. That's not where I'm at now. So yeah, I think I lost the question. We were talking about investment there.
No, I think you answered it. You really did. What I'm hearing from you, and it's a lot of what your model talks about in your messaging of, that words are, it's not theory, it's science, is that how the investment of money, hell, money's just energy. Money comes and goes.
Right.
And people use that as a measuring stick. Time and money are the greatest resources that we have. And I spoke to an attorney today, and I was helping her interview a new paralegal, and the paralegal was asking about, well, what are our hours? What are our billable hours? What are blah, blah. And the attorney said, listen, life is so short. That is not a measuring stick in my law firm. What is a measuring stick in my law firm is the impact we make on the clients.
Oh, wow.
Those are the types
I want to
of
meet
attorneys
that
I
attorney.
attract.
Yeah. Well, and here's what's so fabulous. And the reason why I love working with attorneys, they understand the power of words at a minimum from that academic legal perspective. When the law says could, that is completely different than should. And that is completely different than will. Completely different. And so where I've really just planted my flagpole is around this fairly obscure area of cognitive psychology called linguistic relativity. And it boils down to that words have more of an impact on our thoughts and our actions than we've ever given them credit to. And as I've reread some of the seminal novels, As a Man Thinketh, The Power of Positive Thinking, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, they all have a common thread outside of positive mindset. It's what are the words you're telling yourself? What is the story you're telling yourself? It comes down to this language pattern. So where I really have fun in creating lasting change for clients, especially with lawyers, is follow these linguistic frameworks. This is the mold for you to pour yourself a new foundation. And it's a personal foundation. If you want to build up your practice, you build up your personal foundation. If you want to grow your relationships, you build up your personal foundation. And these linguistic frameworks serve kind of like those giant 2x10s that you have to get ready as you get ready to pour a cement slab in building a house. You use these linguistic patterns to be aware of which direction are you facing, your past or your future. How are you treating yourself with judgment or assessment? Are you celebrating your learning or are you lamenting your failures? And that's where I love working with lawyers because they already have a very high awareness of the impact of those words.
And you've laid it so beautifully in a way to speak into especially professionals, high performers, but attorneys in particular, because I like your choice of words. Very intentional in regards to framework. When I've been talking to attorneys for 25 years and they want a system, they want a process. And ironically, they really want to be told what to do and how to do it. So using that analogy of even building the foundation of the house, using the terminology of framework and really focusing on that versus, I am wonderful, I am rich, money flows to me easily, things of that nature. Those affirmations and mantras, great, but to get professionals around it and to understand that it is science and that there is a framework to taking command, it's not woo-woo, so to speak, then that's something that they can really anchor to.
Absolutely. And please know, if you are listening to this right now, I am now the guy that I made fun of 6 years ago. I love woo-woo because when I was living in the opposite of woo-woo, I was living in that place of ow, 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 ow.
I love when you said that the other day. Say that again. So we don't.
When you live in the opposite of woo-woo, you're living in the place of ow, that pain, that fear, that judgment, that anger, that resentment, all that does not serve you. Now, I'm not saying that it's time for us to cross our arms and interlock our pinkies and sit in a circle. No, I'll take a solid pass on that one. However, stuff that Bob Proctor talks about with that law of attraction, he goes immediately on and talks about action. There's some people that have just shanghaied his work and I'm just going to write myself $1 million check for a year from now and I'll have the money magically in my account. And Bob Proctor goes, no, you must take action.
Yes.
To fulfill that law of attraction. But yeah, the woo-woo, if you're hearing any of this and it sits like woo-woo, please know I am now the dude that I made fun of 6 years ago. And I am so much happier. I'm so much more fulfilled. I am rebuilding the relationship with my kids. My former wife and I spent the entire month of February living on an air mattress in her living room so I could close the gap on the relationship with my kids. So because I have taken command of myself first, I used to think that was selfish. And here's a little bit of wordplay for your audience. It's not selfish, it's self-centered. Because when you take the time to center yourself, that is building up that solid foundation. So what are the hours of sleep you're getting? What is the food that you're putting in your body? I choose to not consume alcohol anymore. That was not doing me any favors. Although I did set several high records, high scores around the world for drinking games, that wasn't moving my life forward. So what are you doing to build up that foundation? And that is centering yourself. So yeah, not selfish, self-centered though.
Yeah. And so take command, right? Talk to us a little bit about that process from you being that November and seeing the ad, taking action, flattening out your sheets, opening up your bills. And if you can, which I know you can, if you can share with us this whole thing through the take command process of, it just hit me, and I know I've heard you say this, but professionals in particular, entrepreneurs and attorneys that I speak with, they don't put themselves first as far as working out, getting ample. I know it sounds so like, oh my gosh, if one more person talks about self-care, I'm going to gut punch them.
Oh, like, yeah.
That's not it, but you said it. You can walk around and have positive thoughts and step on the stage, but if you're having, the what one of my coaches called mental masturbation, where you're just beating the hell out of yourself with this stuff that you're saying, and then you get off and you feel like a fraud and you're completely exhausted and you're just white knuckling and just pushing. And somebody said to me today, I'm on your list and I see your blogging, I see your podcasting, you're with other people's podcasting, you're speaking, you're writing your 4th book. Do you sleep? Like, hell yeah, I sleep. And not only do I sleep, but I work about 30 hours a week, and I'm about to take off for 2 weeks. I told you, I have all my podcasts recorded through August. I just get in the zone. I'm very intentional. I don't waste a tremendous amount of time. I have a ton of fun. I take a lot of vacations. I go camping. I go to yoga 6 days a week, but I'm really, really intentional and clear with what I want my life to look like personally and professionally.
Well, and let's quickly shed a light on you, Molly McGrath, because you kind of like just dropped it in there casually. You've been coaching from before the term coach or coaching existed. You've been doing this for 25 years.
Yep.
And let's go ahead and call out the white elephant in the room. You're a woman.
Yep.
Helping out attorneys that is a male-dominated industry.
A woman without a college education helping and guiding the top intellect in the country, in the world.
Boom. And if you did not have a structure to care for yourself, you, madam, would attempt to give from that empty cup. And you'd like flip that cup upside down and you'd shake it and you'd slam it down on the granite countertop and it would shatter.
Oh, well, all right. Yeah, been there. It, I tell people my rebirthing was, my 0 birthday was probably, 4 years ago. So yeah, I was definitely the breakdown through the breakthrough, and I was stuck in the breakdown. I mean, working 80 hours a week, running 2 business, doing everything. Like you said, I was doing everything. My fixation to I am enough and I am worthy was insane. It just, I was exhausted to the point where but it took me getting shingles to be like, okay, what's next? Cancer?
Right. Let's reassess now. And for anybody listening to this, listen to Molly's resolve. Listen to that clarity. Because I've ran into some coaches that when I look at their past, there was one that was soliciting me to do something. And I looked at her website, and she went to college at 16 and she wasn't scared at all. And she did this and she got a 4.0 and she then went and there was no blemish. There was no black eye. There was never like she faced anxiety. She faced fear. She struggled. Nope. She shows up. She nailed it. And I'm like, yeah, not interested. Well, I just want to have a 10-minute call. Nope. Not interested. Not interested. And so when you find someone who has stood on the edge of their own abyss, or knocked down the gates of hell. Because as a Marine, you don't just like open the gates of hell. You blow those doors off their hinges and have a forcible entry. You look for that in a coach. You look for someone that has that experience, because you know that when they put their hand out, it is to be a hand up, because they know where you're at, because they've been there. So Molly, I love that you have gone through that process of self-care, because you are a Titan coach, and your clients are so lucky. Yeah, I want to shine a light on that real fast.
Aw, I will receive that. Thank you.
It's one of those lights that's like 5 times brighter than the sun too. So, so the take command process, I want to have could we put in the show notes a workshop?
Yes,
that if they want to see the full 6 steps of the take command transformation, this is the combination of my life's work. The leadership principles from the United States Marine Corps, the planning principles in the United States military, from everything. You use the same planning principles to invade a country as you do to bake a cake. They're that universal. So I bring in the military leadership, the military planning, the linguistic relativity, anthropology, biology, neuroscience, and all of it's boiled down, because you don't need to research all that. You need to follow these steps 1 through 6. So we'll put that workshop down in the show notes. I think what I'd like to do is, here's the momentum framework. If you're at a place in your life where you're just looking at this and you're like, you know what, there's got to be a different way. I want to change what you define to be a win. Do you want to do this? Can we do this one? Do you remember this one?
Yeah. Yep.
So I want to start with the opposite of a win. And some people would say loss or failure. I'm gonna go back to Molly and my common origin here of Catholicism, and the word sin. Sin. And as I say that word, just think about what's happening inside your body: physical sensations, emotions. Sin. When you go back to the Greek, the word is hamartia. And hamartia was translated through the years to be sin in a religious context. And it also shows up in a completely different industry. It's a sport. And it's the sport of archery. That when you line everything up for your best attempt to hit the center of that target, and you don't hit the center of the target, let's say you just impact a little bit to the left. Well, it's called a sin to the left. So then you take what you can learn and you knock that arrow again, and you blang, let it go down range, and maybe you missed a little bit to the right. So then you've got a sin to the left, sin to the right. 2 sins now, y'all. Bump, bump. A sin means
I told you we were going to have fun.
So much fun. So much fun. A sin means you've missed the mark. And if you take that definition of hamartia and then look at the religious context, here are these greats, whether it's Jesus of Nazareth, the Prophet Muhammad, Siddhartha hanging out over in the Far East, any of these greats, they're like, hey, this is a really good idea of how to live. It works really good to have descendants. It works really good for having peace among us. These are really good ideas. So we're going to set that up to be the mark. And that might be a completely watered down view of religion, but I think there's some truth there. This is what this culture has defined to be the bullseye. So then if you miss, you can progressively learn so that you can win by hitting the center of the target. So by extension of this, a sinner is one who just refuses to learn how to hit the mark, because it is a choice. And if you want to be a winner, then it's the learning that differentiates. So everything that I focus on is that learning is winning. So this 3-step process to create momentum in any situation, to take command in times of chaos, whether it's in the middle of combat or the opening arguments in the courtroom, or maybe you're mediating in some boardroom, or you're getting ready to have a hostile takeover and you are the bearer of the bad news. Whatever that is, you can take command in times of chaos in these 3 steps. Step 1, what did I learn? Abandon a fixation on the outcome and take a look at the process. Take a look at the journey. What did you learn along the way? It might be some overarching truth. It might be something deep within you. It might also be how to organize your email. Like you can have everything in between. Whatever that is, you say it out loud. You say it out loud. You have something like 6 or 7 thoughts per second. You can't talk that fast. So in saying it out loud, it's going to help you pump the brakes on the chaos that's inside your cranium and allow you to take command. So you say it out loud. What did I learn? And you say that truth out loud. That's step 1. Step 2. You want to go into step 2?
Mm-hmm. You can't leave us hanging.
Step 2 is what saved my life. You celebrate. You celebrate what you learned to create a dopamine drip inside your brain to become fascinated with learning again. Like when you were a kid, or when that first time that you recognized you wanted to be a lawyer, or that was because a family member or a friend inspired you because they were a lawyer, whether it's because you recognize the ability to create financial abundance for you and your family, whether it's because you recognize that law school is a little bit shorter than med school, whether it's that you had some very deep, impactful part of your life when you were younger and now you're dedicated to service and advocacy, whatever it was, you had that fascination with learning. And when you celebrate what you've learned, you are going to create that habit loop of falling in love with learning. A celebration could be something like putting your hands in the air and waving them like you just don't care, like I did that night in my parents' mobile home. You could also be going eyeball to eyeball with yourself in the mirror and saying, Gowin, I love you, man. You did a great job on this podcast with Molly today. You are serving so many people. This is what you have been dreaming and working towards for so many years. Keep it up. I'm so proud of you. It could also be grabbing your spouse and going out to that nice dinner. It could be throwing the kids in the car and going for a road trip. It could be anything, but let it be distinct from the tasks and the projects and the requirements of whatever is the day-to-day activities. Let it be distinct. Let it be separate, because that way you can be assured that it won't become routine. A rut is an open-ended grave. Stay out of the rut. Have that novelty in your celebration. I had a client one time in one of those fishbowl conference rooms. You know, the ones that have the from floor to ceiling is just a giant piece of glass. And he got up on his table in front of it. His entire team is outside of the fishbowl. We're inside there. And he beats his chest like Tarzan, screaming at the top of his lungs. Whatever your truth is, celebrate that way. Push yourself. Life is so much fun. Step 1, learn, not from the final outcome, from that process, that journey along the way. 2, celebrate the learning. And that's what you're celebrating, the learning and not the outcome. Because sometimes you're going to recognize, like I have, there were times in my past that I was an absolute asshole. Some of the stuff that I've said, some of the stuff that I've done, some of the things that I've contributed to, I'm not proud of it. But when I can celebrate what I've learned, I immediately lessen the judgment on myself. When I celebrate what I've learned, I create momentum to drive into step 3. Molly, are we ready for step 3?
I am.
Step 3 is, what is your inspired action based off of what you've learned with the momentum from your celebration? Because this is what keeps you from being the yeah guy. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, this was back in my glory days. Let me tell you, back when I was in high school and I set the state record for how many times you could sit on the bench. No, we are facing your future. So we look to the past, we honor and learn from it, we celebrate it, and then we drive it forward with our inspired action. And the tighter you close up this loop, the more momentum you create. For my calculus friends, this is like dividing by 0. You get instantaneous rates of change. You are literally living your life as a learning, celebration, and inspired action. And then once you take that action, you're going to have something to learn from. Once you learn from it, then you get to celebrate it. Once you celebrate it, I'm going to break some crystal here. And then you just stay in that positive feedback loop. Because are you tired of being in the negative one? Are you tired of that downward spiral? All I'm wanting you to do is, just like those aircraft from the 1980s, I want to flip you back upside the right way so that act of spiraling can be forward. It can be positive. It can be limitless. It can go to the stars and beyond, because that is what you are capable of. And if this is the first time that you have ever heard somebody believe in you, that's right. I have not met you. I believe in you because I believe in your humanity. And I know that you can learn. I know that you can celebrate. And I know that you can take inspired action to move your life forward. And when you do that, you can build greater relationships. And when you do that, you can advance your practice. And when you do that, you can go out and win your dreams today.
Boom. Say that again. What'd you say? A rut is
an open-ended grave.
An open-ended grave.
Stay out of the
rut.
rut.
Love that.
If you feel that you're stuck in a rut, do something different. If you've gotten into a routine that you've lost the feeling and the zest of life, figure out if you could open up your car door 2 seconds faster by having your keys out of your purse and in your hand already. See if you can do a little swoop-de-doop as you go to sit down in the car and you have your seatbelt on a half a second faster. When you do that, you're going to start accelerating your life. You're going to learn. And that can be your it doesn't even have to be a foothold, you guys. It can be a toe hold. It can be like your toenail hold. Just that little bit of a shift will yield compounding, exponentially growing results. That was a little bit redundant there, but it's that big of a deal. You can move your life forward by getting out of that rut. Do something different. Learn from it.
Wow. I'll tell you, the one that hit me the hardest was to celebrate. Not the hardest, that was all right. So 3 steps. Yeah. Learn, celebrate, take inspired action. Got it. It's simple, right? For me, I once really understood how to identify a win and how to learn from everything I did, the good, the bad, the ugly, the tragic, whatever.
Right.
There was a celebrate piece that, my first book that I wrote, Facebook does all that memory stuff, and it popped up that it's a 9-year anniversary this week, and we are #1 movers and shakers on Amazon. And it just breaks my heart to see that, because I never my partner and I, when we talk about it, when we wrote that book, we never celebrated that book ever. And it was through that process that our coach started talking about celebration. And as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as humans, we don't celebrate like our accomplishments. We celebrate everybody else's. We're great to everybody else, but take that power of the pause in the moment, in the small victories, in the personal victories, or professional, to celebrate. Like, it sounds like so childish. It sounds so insignificant, but it is. I will tell you firsthand, I would say that my life depended on that. Me being able to launch and be where I am today was learning how to receive and learning how to celebrate.
Yeah. Brendon Burchard did the High Performance Institute study, self-reported survey for people to go in and take. And the number one thing that he has seen, or the biggest thing that like slapped him in the face, was that most people do not feel fulfilled from their work, their life, their relationships. And just taking that pause, taking that beat to feel the victories, to feel the learning. And a beat might be a few moments for you. It might be a few minutes. For you, Molly, you're taking a 2-week vacation. So that's a heck of a beat right there.
Mm-hmm.
You inspired me. I rearranged my calendar and I'm taking a full week off at the end of this month.
Great.
I don't even know the last time I've taken more than 3 days off, maybe 4. That sense of fulfillment is, after we solve survival, we want to feel good about it. So feel good about it. Be intentional about that.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has been amazing, Paul. I don't even want to use the word inspiring. I just, the wisdom. You are a wisdom walker.
Wow. I've never heard that before. Thank you. And it's alliterative. So bonus points for that one.
Take command. Take command. I just thank you for the gift of this course. So, tell us a little bit about how long is the course? It's a video course and a workbook. Tell us a little bit about what our listeners can expect, because I highly, highly recommend, regardless of where you are in your life, in your business, personal, professional, what have you, invest in the time and give yourself this gift to do the deep work. In how long? How long would it take to get a taste of this?
I'm trying to, I was like, I can speak to everything besides that one question. Like, how long is the workshop?
Logistic and administrative. You're like, let me ask my assistant. I'll find out and I'll put it in the notes. How about that?
Yeah. We'll drop that in the notes. Hold on. I'm pulling it up right now because we're going to get your listeners this answer right now.
Right now.
Here's the deal. Invest the time. The first time I was asked if I wanted to invest my time into something, it was with $1,000 price tag. And I asked my folks, should I do it? And they're like, no, put it into savings, put it into mutual funds, put it into something else, go buy more groceries. I didn't understand the value of investing in myself. People that pay attention. And this is a free workshop. It is under 30 minutes. It's 28 minutes and 27 seconds.
There you go.
And I might be re-recording this to improve upon it, to take it to the next level. You're going to have a workbook to download to help you with the information, because it's 30 minutes, but it is my life's work. So we move pretty quickly because I'm focused on serving, and I know you can rewind it and fill in the blanks. So you're going to have a workbook to follow along with the workshop, and it's going to walk you through the 6 steps of how to take command. Because here's the great thing. The military, and I served in the Marine Corps, they train you to function with frameworks. When you haven't slept in 3 days, you haven't eaten in 2, and you're getting shot at. How do you create a framework for clarity of thought for that?
Wow.
They taught me how to do that. And now as a peacemonger, I'm bringing all of the best of that in this workshop for you. So you're going to love it. It's going to go through the secret tools of how to take command. If I told you what the tools are, they wouldn't be a secret anymore. So you're going to have to check that out. That's step 1. Step 2 is how to honor and learn from your past. Step 3, create energy raising confidence in the present. Step 4, boldly dream about your future. Step 5 is take command in the present. You know what? I did this the other day with you. I skipped a step. Hold on. Step 1, secret tools. Oh, step 2 is orient and observe. Which direction are you facing? Your past or your present? And then step 3, honor and learn. Step 4 is create that energy raising confidence in the present. Step 5, boldly dream about the future. And step 6, take command today. And that's what's on offer for you. You have a way to be in command without being in control. That's what's beautiful about this.
Well said. Beautiful. All right. I think that's a great stopping point for us. So listeners, go to the show notes. I'll have all the goodies there. Wait for you to access everything. And Paul, thank you for being so vulnerable, sharing your personal story with us, sharing your experience, how you got to where you are today, and really training us on how to change our words, our thoughts, and our actions so we could take command of our life.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Every time I get ready to talk with you, I start smiling so much that my face hurts. So I entered the podcast with my face hurting a little bit, and I've been smiling pretty much this whole time too. So you are such a rock star in how you serve your audience and your clients. It's been an absolute privilege to be on your show and to be able to reach out and impact your listeners and your audience. So thank you. And if you're listening to this, I love you. I believe in you. Take a step. Get out of the rut. You've got this. And if you need help, reach out.
Oh, yeah, they will be. Yes. Oh, thank you, my friend for life. That took us a while to get here, but we're going to have you back again.
It'll be great. I look forward to it.
Okay, listeners, that's a wrap. Until next time, go forth and download, invest in this less than 30 minutes. And it might be more if you rewind and you go through that program a couple times, which I highly, highly recommend. It is not a one and done. It is not a one and wow. It is a framework for how to take command of your life and stop. I'm going to piggyback real quick and end with this, that your excuses are the cemetery of your dreams.